All right, let's dive right in. Today we're unpacking a seriously fascinating, highly esoteric ancient text known as the Supreme Nine Essentials Mind Seal Sutra. And look, this isn't just some dusty old philosophy book, it's a literal blueprint. It completely decodes this profound, intricate connection between our minds, our physical bodies, and, well, the universe itself. We're talking about a master guide to Taoist internal alchemy, the practice of fundamentally transforming yourself from the inside out.
This quote right here sets the stage perfectly for us. It says, "Heaven gets the one to maintain clear sun, moon, and stars. Human gets the one to maintain spirit, energy, and essence." Think about what that really means. It shows us exactly how this ancient wisdom viewed the human body. We aren't just living in nature, we are a literal microcosm of the cosmos. The exact same unifying force, this one, that keeps the stars hanging in the sky, it's the very same force keeping us alive and conscious. How wild is that?
To make this mystical text a bit more accessible, we're going to map out this journey of self-cultivation, step by step, in today's explainer. We'll cover the foundation of Jing, Qi, and Shen, then we'll look at the body's inner bellows. After that, the alchemy of the three fires, the cosmic rhythms and elements, and finally, the ultimate goal, the fetal breath.
Okay, starting off with part 1, the foundation of Jing, Qi, and Shen. To really get internal alchemy, we have to zoom all the way in to the microscopic level. We're looking at the holy trinity of Taoist physiology, the absolute bedrock of our existence.
First up in this trio, we have Shen. This translates basically to our spirit or our mind. It represents human nature, our consciousness, the spark of who we are. The sutra actually paints a really colorful picture of Shen, depicting it as a fiery southern red snake. It's active, it's hyper-aware, and it represents this blazing fire of our inner being.
Next up is Qi, which you're probably familiar with. It's our vital energy and breath. But here, it's symbolized by the northern black turtle. And the text makes a crucial point. For any real alchemy to happen, this watery, grounded life force of the turtle absolutely must intertwine and constantly interact with that fiery red snake of our spirits.
And finally, we have Jing, which is our physical essence. You can think of Jing as the raw, foundational material of our bodies. It's our root vitality. But here's the absolute magic of Taoist alchemy, and honestly, why this still matters so much for our energy levels today. Jing isn't just static matter. It's a physical fuel that actually transforms upward. It refines itself into both that vital energy, the Qi, and the spirit, the Shen.
Move into section 2, the body's inner bellows. Now that we've got those core building blocks of Jing, Qi, and Shen, let's look at the actual machinery of the human body and see how this all interacts inside of us.
The text sets up this incredibly fascinating contrast between two of our vital organs. Up top, we have the heart, which it calls the house of our spirit. It's associated with fire and, ideally, perfect stillness. Then, right on the flip side, we have the kidneys. These are the house of our qi, our energy, and they are associated with water and constant fluid movement.
And that contrast brings us to this brilliantly illustrative metaphor in the sutra, the bellows. Just imagine a blacksmith's bellows pumping air into a furnace. Well, in our bodies, our breathing acts exactly like that tool. Every conscious breath you take acts like a pump, mixing the fire of the heart with the water of the kidneys. When your spirit and your energy combine through intentional breathing, they spark this powerful internal engine that literally drives your vitality.
So, into section 3, the alchemy of three fires. Moving up a level here, the text explains how we actually manage this powerful internal engine using what it calls the three fires. This is where the practice demands some serious focus.
What's so wild here is how the text uses these massive, sweeping political and military metaphors to describe what is essentially the deeply personal management of your own energy. It outlines three distinct paths. The path of Earth is like military strategy, disciplining the body's essence by stripping away base desires. Then, the path of the human is like governing a state. The idea is, if the emperor, which is your mind, is calm, then the citizens, your energy, will naturally be at peace. And finally, the path of heaven is all about refining the spirit entirely, eventually merging it directly with the Tao, the natural order of the universe.
Now, the sutra draws a very hard line between two different types of practice. It completely distances true spiritual growth from outer alchemy. Outer alchemy was all about relying on physical materials, melting down actual metals or drinking external elixirs, which, let's be honest, rarely ended well.
Instead, it fully champions inner alchemy. This is the idea that true, lasting transformation only happens when we refine our invisible spirit and qi using the inner fire of our own focused intention.
Which brings us to Section 4, Cosmic Rhythms and Elements. Let's zoom out from the organs for a second and look at how our bodies actually mirror the entire universe.
The sutra beautifully lays out this complex matrix of correspondences. The ancient Taoists firmly believed that the 5 elements of the universe, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, directly map to our internal organs. But they didn't stop at just physiology. It goes deeper. Every single organ also houses a specific facet of our soul, like the shen residing in the heart, or the hun in the liver. It's this massive interconnected web where your physical organs are quite literally holding the spiritual elements of your existence.
And it gets even more precise. The text maps our internal energy to a 15-day lunar cycle. It uses old alchemical terms like mercury and lead as metaphors for our spiritual elements, showing how the yin of the moon and the yang of the sun constantly ebb and flow inside of us day by day. By day 15, this cycle hits a perfect equilibrium. The active sun energy perfectly guards the receptive moon energy within the body. It is literally a biological clock synced up directly with the heavens.
All right, our final stop, Section 5, the ultimate fetal breath. Because ultimately, all of this complex internal alchemy, the balancing of those elements, the mixing of fire and water, it all leads to one incredible climax. The ultimate endgame here is achieving what they call fetal breathing. This is a profoundly deep meditative state. To get there, the text says you have to completely close off your external senses, allowing your spirit to take the wheel and entirely guide your internal qi. When you actually achieve this, your respiration becomes so subtle, so isolated and natural that your abdomen just pulses on its own. It's like you're breathing exactly as an infant does in the womb, effortlessly, seamlessly connected to the absolute source of life. But getting to that level of tranquility requires a practice the sutra calls the 7 returns. This is an intense method of sensory withdrawal. Basically, we have to actively pull our 7 openings, our sight, our hearing, our smell, our taste, away from the endless, exhausting distractions of the outside world. When we turn those senses inward, we stop leaking our precious energy. Instead, we condense it to forge this pure, unified energy known as the golden elixir.
And there's this incredibly touching metaphor the sutra uses to explain this. It says, breath is the mother of the spirit within the form. It's urging us to protect our spirit and our breath as intimately and as fiercely as a mother protects her child. Because if you separate them, that vitality is just lost. But if you guard them together within your body, that's where you find ultimate, lasting harmony.
So, that really brings us to the core lesson of this fascinating text. The ancient Taoists understood that constantly looking outward scatters our essence. I want to leave you with a final thought on this today. In our hyper-connected, super distracting reality, where our senses are just constantly pulled outward by screens and noise all day long, what steps can you take today to close those doors, look inward, and finally reclaim your own inner stillness?